the Omaha Baseball Village, where we are powered by Access Bank, here for a reason. Yours, and by Children's Nebraska. And today, 1620 The Zone is joined by the Drug Enforcement Administration. To learn about the dangers of fentanyl or to join in the fight against drugs, visit DEA.gov. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley, Josh Hodson with you. Jacob Janicek back in our 1620 The Zone studios, fresh off of a rally, a comeback victory by the North Carolina Tar Heels. They move into the winner's bracket, a walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth inning. What a game to begin the Men's College World Series, Mr. Nick Handley. That was a fun one.
It was, and there goes my 8-7 thing. I kept saying, those 4-3, those 3-2 games, I wouldn't worry about that. That's a thing of the past. We're going to see a lot of offense. But, yeah, it was outstanding. And we ended the show talking about, you brought up, and very astutely, Josh, that
thank you.
We didn't have it.
We
don't have as many draft picks in this year's particular College World Series field that we did a year ago. But every team brings in a lot of punch. They bring in some offense. They do a lot of different things, and they have been tough throughout the season. The number 9 ranked prospect in this College World Series field, is it any wonder that he was the difference, that he gets the walk-off? The question is, do you pitch to him? One of our our fans was asking, would you pitch to him when you have the runner 90 feet away and you got an open bag? Me personally, no, but
you go no, and he goes no, and he just shakes his head and walked away sheepishly.
This is why I co-host a radio show, and I'm not in the dugout. But still, I was thinking the exact same thing when Honeycutt comes up, and you are essentially in a position. They get the pop fly. You got 2 outs. You're thinking, okay, you're in pretty good shape here. I would love to know the thought process of what they liked about that matchup, that they could get Honeycutt right there. But again, this is something I think in this College World Series is going to be a theme that I think you're going to see with a lot of the guys, not only the draft class of this year, but also you've got guys represented that'll be eligible for the 25 draft. I mean, it's plentiful. And right out of the gate, we get one of the studs that comes through in a big moment, whether to pitch to him or not, he comes up huge.
So this game ends 3-2. North Carolina moves on into the winner's bracket. So UVA now will watch tonight's game very intently, and they will await the loser of Tennessee and Florida State. Meanwhile, North Carolina will face off versus the winner. That game will come on Father's Day night, whereas the loser's bracket game will be the earlier game on Sunday. But what a way to begin the College World Series. Just kind of back and forth. 1 run for each team across the innings in which they scored. And North Carolina scored in the bottom of the first, UVA in the top of the third. UVA took the lead in the top of the 6th. It was matched then in the bottom of the 7th by the Tar Heels. And then, like we just discussed, a walk-off hit from Vance Honeycutt gives North Carolina another victory. And how about this from Rob Anderson? He said, today marked North Carolina's 200th NCAA tournament game in program history. They are now 121-79 in those contests. Today was UNC's first walk-off win ever in 42 games played in the College World Series.
How about that? Maybe that spells some good fortunes for the Heels going forward, the Diamond Heels going forward. But that's a crazy stat with that many NCAA appearances as well. That's the first one, and in a game, especially with what we've seen with competition so tight, especially amongst the ACC and the SEC, and when you get into the postseason, how good those teams are, that this is the first one. But what a solid pitching performance. I like the way that both teams manage their staffs as well. This is what you expect at this level. It delivered. It absolutely did. I think that's going to be the Monday morning quarterbacking going on, though. With an open bag, do you go ahead and walk Vance Honeycutt, one of the hottest hitters? He came through in his previous at-bat as well. Do you walk him and take your chances with someone else? Now, then you're getting into the thick of the lineup, too. You're going into 2, 3, 4. Well, probably 2, 3. You're not getting past that without the result being determined one way or the other. But that's an easy one, I think, for people to kind of chew on right now.
Certainly is. North Carolina moves on to the winner's bracket, 3-2 over Virginia as the 2024 College World Series, the Men's College World Series, is underway. It is absolutely packed right now at the Omaha Baseball Village. So we will be with you for a little more than an hour ahead of Game 2 tonight, which is Tennessee and Florida State. So we'll be hanging out until 5:40. Coming up throughout the show today, if you missed it earlier, we were discussing Jacob, you can just turn that down real fast. We don't need to go to break just yet. All right, cool. But we just want to make sure. So if you missed it earlier, we talked about 6 Big Ten teams, the 4 teams in the Pac-12 from the Pac-12, Nebraska and Minnesota. We're going to do a project, an exercise. Today, we're going to finish up with 3 more teams. And then on Monday, when Nick and I are back together, we're going to do the other 9 teams in the conference. What makes a good season for these 9 and then 18 Big Ten teams? We finished up with Nebraska today. It's just fun to kind of whet the football appetite a little bit. So we did that a little earlier today. So we'll finish up with Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois today. And then a variety of other things that have been going on. Josh Hodson sent me a hilarious story that I know that we both want to dive into about Colorado and Deion
it's always a
Sanders.
good day when you get a Colorado story.
I feel like of all the things that we're going to talk about over the next hour and change, I feel like when we get into that story, we might have a couple of folks saying, wait, what? I want to hang out and listen to what's going on here because this is pretty weird. So we'll talk about that and some other stuff too. It should be a fun time.
And also with the not best case scenario, but what would make a good season.
Yeah.
Typically we are cracking open a Phil Steele magazine, but since that's always been pushed now to, the 1st of July, this is what we have. So this is what we're creating for you, for the college football appetite. Because look, we got SEC, ACC.
Yes.
As much as these fans are excited about the baseball, I see some Florida State fans. Saw a lot of Vols fans walking around too. I think they're gonna be the fan base this week. I think anytime we get a little break in the action, who doesn't in the SEC and ACC want to talk some football?
Oh, absolutely.
Even though we're not talking best case scenario, good seasons for those conferences, they still might want to tune into that.
Well, what was it earlier? We were talking about something, and was it Tennessee fans who came over, and you mentioned the Big Ten, and they just scoffed. They laughed in your face, Nick Handley, for wanting to talk about the Big Ten.
Give me a thumbs down and made a poop sound.
Yeah, they really did. So, if that's anything to learn if you're a Big Ten team or fan.
Just motivates you.
Yeah, get your stuff together. By the way, we also were following along earlier today with the U.S. Open, and we could talk about that a little bit as well. Scotty Scheffler, amazing lead from Paul Uggetti from ESPN.com, who wrote, there was nowhere else for Scotty Scheffler to let out his frustration. So after his tee shot on the 18th hole, veered out to the left and landed in the native area. Scheffler took his driver and slammed it to the ground. Yep. The sound it made was followed by a surprised silence from the Pinehurst galleries. For Scheffler, it wasn't enough. He grabbed his tee and threw it in disgust.
Oh, my God.
It was one of those
emotion?
Days.
No.
He showed emotion.
Pinehurst has finally broke Scotty Scheffler.
Shouldn't have got his hair cut, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's trimmed down the beard as well. He had kind of a cool look. Well, a lot of this, I think some of this image change happened when he had his mugshot.
Yeah, you think so? He doesn't want to look like he did in the mugshot?
Yeah. I think he's trying to clean it up. Seen too many pictures of that on T-shirts now everywhere he goes.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe
not
a little
bad
bit
idea.
of that. But that's the one thing I've always said about Scotty Scheffler. He's so good. He's boring. And he's a very friendly person. So I actually like seeing him get frustrated. And then he had the putter toss. Yeah. Very reminiscent to Happy Gilmore.
Here comes the putter throw. A new Happy Gilmore.
Well, you remember when Chubbs and Happy are working on the mini putt? Yeah. And there's the one time when Happy misses one of the many putts and he just tosses his putter. Scotty Scheffler did the exact same thing today.
Oh, wow.
So he was channeling
He's
Happy Gilmore.
the reverse of Happy Gilmore, where here comes the putter throw, new Happy Gilmore. Today was a new Scotty Scheffler.
It really was.
By the way, Otson, what grade would you give Happy Gilmore on the Josh Otson grading scale? A tough grader. Four out of 5 stars. I'd say that's a solid grade. That movie has aged spectacularly.
It has. Now, Odson, are you about the second one? Are you going to get into that one?
Oh, that's right. They are making another one.
I don't love that they're doing this.
Yeah, me neither. I don't like it either.
We saw how Caddyshack 2 went.
Yeah. By the way, the top of the leaderboard right now for the U.S. Open, Ludwig Aberg is 2 under on the day, 6 under overall through 13. Patrick Cantlay also through 13. He is even on the day. He is 5 under. Let's see. Scroll. Bryson DeChambeau, he finished the day 1 under. He's 4 under overall on the day. Tony Finau also 4 under. But he is 2 under on the day, Nick, and he is through 13. So a good day for Tony Finau as this rolls on, and Rory McIlroy +2 and -3 overall. So he gives a couple strokes back. But as we talked about in our first show today, tough. It was tough out there today.
Piner's got the better of the field. I said this during our Masters Week coverage. Ludwig Oberg, that guy's a player. Texas Tech guy. He's a stud. He dominated in the Ryder Cup. And now you're starting to see him, even in major championships here, starting to flex a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if you see him in that lead group on Sunday. Yeah, his game, his swing. He's just got that the whole ice water vein. He reminds me a lot of when Spieth was good. Remember with Scheffler winning the Masters, there was a moment on 12. I take it back. It was on 13 that if Oberg does not get a really bad bounce where he's going for the green, trying to get an eagle opportunity, hits a nice shot, but it just takes unfortunate bounce left into the creek. If that thing releases forward, he's around with Scotty there on Sunday. He has a chance to push Scotty on that Sunday. So I don't think anybody should be really surprised with how Oberger is performing right now.
Hey, what do you think of this? Like when we were talking about it earlier, I got a text from a listener who said, I think McIlroy and DeChambeau in second place, this was at the time, is a bigger story than Scheffler possibly missing the cut. Rory winning the U.S. Open will be a huge story.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah?
I think DeChambeau is, in a way, he's reinventing his game because his body changed again. But I'm not a Bryson DeChambeau fan. He's one of the bigger tools you're going to find in the toolbox. But I got to respect somebody who's toned it down a bit, and his game is starting to really tighten up a little bit in a good way. So I can respect the improvements he's made. He looked really good in the PGA Championship as well. Damn near almost won that one. So there's a lot about his game now that I like, and I think that is a big story because he was one of the live defectors who a lot of people were kind of like, all right, good riddance. We don't have to deal with the Bryson DeChambeau drama anymore. And Rory, look, Rory in majors has been disappointing lately. It feels like forever since he's won his last major. So Rory in majors, Rory's won a lot of events here as of late, but Rory in majors has been largely disappointing. Go all the way back to Cam Smith when he was able to outdo what looked like Rory's going to win the British Open 2 years ago, and he just could not make birdies. Cam Smith ends up winning that one. That's just kind of been Rory in majors lately. So can this one be the weekend that he's able to actually not have to let the field come back to him, but he actually does something about it? I mean, we know the skill that he has. But, yeah, I would agree. I think those are two major stories right now.
Be interesting to see as this thing rolls on with a lot of big names at the top of the leaderboard, who becomes the player that the fans really start getting behind the longer this one goes on. All right, we have about an hour left in the show ahead of the second game of tonight as we are looking forward to this one between Florida State and Tennessee. When we return, the big story from yesterday was what in the world's going on with the Big 12 and AAC and Conference USA and changing their names. I heard an opinion this morning on a college football pod that I wanted to run by you that I thought was a pretty interesting question. So we'll finish up the rest of this hour with that, and then plenty of other stuff too, including what makes a good season for Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois football. That and more when we return here on 1620 The Zone. Oh, baby. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley with you. Josh Otson's here as well. Jacob Janicek back in our 1620 The Zone studios as we finish up this abbreviated, not even first hour of the show, but we're on for about another hour ahead of the Vols and the Noles. O-Trips RDJ tweeting in, saying, loving the live show at the Baseball Village. How about that, Nick?
Thanks, O-Trips DJ. Did I get that all right?
RDJ, Rolled J's, I believe, is is what it stands for. And how about the youth of America? So earlier, a couple stories about the Youngs. Earlier, kids, bunch of teenage boys, I would probably say, right? They come by and they say, "Hey, who won the game?" And so we tell them it was North Carolina, and it must have been the ringleader of the group. Drops an drops an F-bomb.
We could have been live.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I say, whoa. And what happens with all of his boys? A lot of giggling.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they never
by a radio station. They might be live, and he just dropped the F word.
He just said the F word to an adult. Like, so that kid, I don't know. He's going places. I don't know which places he's going, but he's going there. So then the second group of youngsters hop by, and we find out one of them thinks that we're a podcast.
Yep.
How's the podcast going?
Yeah.
To which then you had to tell him, no, this is actually the radio. He wasn't paying attention because then he mentioned to you he has a podcast.
He has a podcast. He does food reviews apparently. But anytime now,
reviews.
The youngins, when they see a couple of yahoos like myself, I won't say you're a yahoo, but a couple of yahoos like us.
I'm almost 40 now.
But we've got our headphones on and we're talking about stuff that they just assume that it's a podcast. Now, we're available through podcast, but no, this is old school radio.
Old school radio. Yes, by the way, if you're wanting to check out the pods, the shows that happen in the early part of the day will be in the Connor Happer Show feed, and this one will be in the Unsportsmanlike Conduct feed. So,
but gentlemen, hi, by the way.
Hey, Josh.
Josh Johnson with a microphone,
mic
baby.
Works.
If they would just peer their eyes up over your shoulders, they would see all of these 1620 The Zone logos.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
maybe
generally that indicates radio.
Maybe they think 1620 The Zone is the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
1620 the podcast.
What does 1620 The Zone mean for your podcast?
Yeah, exactly. See, they wouldn't know.
I felt like it was going to take a lot of time to explain old school radio, and I didn't have the energy.
So there's this thing, amplitude modulation, right? And the waves are in the air.
So Marconi says, I got his takes out.
Kid, I swear, someday you're going to love this stuff. You're going to be in your car, and you're going to want some good old-fashioned AM radio.
Now, going back to the kid who dropped the F-bomb, though,
yeah.
Remember, a lot of him and his friends were wearing blenders. So that's all you really need to know. There was a lot of blenders being worn there and prime sunglasses. So
all right. Well,
it is what it is.
It is indeed. Why not Hoiberg texts into the show. Every Rory Major, great first round, shoot himself out of contention in the second and third round. Great fourth round for a backdoor top 10. The only major
that's not right. He's not wrong.
That did not go according to that plan was the Masters when he was leading, and then he shot like an 80 or whatever it was. You remember that one? He's just like, I'm going to hit it into the woods.
Yeah.
At eight-man corner.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go Roy McAvoy on this one. No, he's right, with the exception of that British Open 2 years ago when Cam Smith won, because he just needed to make a few birdies. He didn't play awful, but he just did not make enough birdies. It wasn't like he was 4 or 5 over. Yeah. But he didn't do enough to just surge ahead, and Cam Smith was on a heater, and that happened. I'm always pulling for Rory, though. I like Rory. Rory's he's got to be exhausted right now. He was fighting the fight for the PGA. Then he backed off of it. Then he wanted to come back and advocate for the PGA again. They're like, you know what? We don't need you anymore because we think we're close to a deal here. And so I feel like Rory, and then he gets divorced. Now he's back.
Now he's not divorced.
Yeah, now he's no longer divorced and stuff. There's been
Shout out Rory.
As
he's gone
Crash
through
Davis
it, man.
would say in Bull Durham, they're dealing with a lot of you-know-what. And that's what Rory's dealing with right now.
Yeah, certainly. Trey Day tweets in, even if the kids think it's a podcast, it's still AM radio.
It is.
Heck yes, it is. Check it out. Tell your parents to listen to our radio show at 1620 The Zone. By the way, speaking of Twitter real fast before we get to some actual sports, it is a One Beer Friday. So if you would like to let us know what you are drinking, I will be leaving here, and I will be going to a brewery, and I will be having a One Beer Friday.
I think I'm going to start Father's Day weekend as soon as I get home.
Let's go.
Yeah, I brought in some good beer from
he said
Michigan.
the big One Beer Friday.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, yeah. We were just up in Grand Rapids, went to a brewery out there.
Nice.
It was what's it called?
Old Nation.
This one was, I'm trying to remember. Well, we did go to New Belgium.
Yeah? How was that?
That was very, very good.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, not New Belgium, New Holland.
New
Belgium
Holland.
is Colorado.
I have one of their stickers.
Yeah, they've got some, I'm not a big stout guy, but they got some good stout.
Okay.
But this was called, and I'm trying to remember. I even bought a hat because it was cool. But anyway, they had a very good hazy IPA. I'm going to be cracking into that.
All right, let's go. Let's go. So we talked a little bit earlier, and it's kind of been the story that's taken over the sports world over the last couple of days in college sports, and that is like conferences having sponsors. And yesterday, it was funny, Nick, the drip drab of like, as I'm doing prep for my show with Schaefer, I'm thinking like, oh, wow, this is going to be the thing that we talk about. And then more would get added on top of it. And finally, it led to Brett McMurphy reported that the Big 12 is in conversations with Allstate. And so the league will either be the Big Allstate or the Allstate 12, which if you're going to do the latter, like change the number because it's not 12 teams anymore. Yes. I digress. But I was listening to Until Saturday, which is the Athletics College Football Pod this morning. And one of the hosts, I think it was Chris Vanini, asked this question. Is all of this worth it if it keeps college sports together? And by together, I mean like where it will be in a few months, but like before it falls apart even more. And I found that pretty interesting because I know a lot of people are like, this is stupid. I hate this. I don't want conferences to be sponsored. But if the leagues stay together, even if you have to call it the SEC presented by Bojangles, it's worth it, right? Like to not have to move forward and make any more changes.
It's a good point. And I didn't even think of it that way. I thought of it like this yesterday, and it's if you're going to go ahead and just get really weird with college football, like we continue to be weird with college football, what is this in the years, the last 4 or 5 years, but especially the last 8 to 12 months that we've seen in college football where it continues to get so unrecognizable? This is just a drop in the bucket, isn't it? And the other part about this is we know now with the revenue share, and I don't know how much each member of the conference will get when it comes to revenue of having naming rights for your conference, but I'm assuming just like a TV rights deal, you're going to get a piece of that. There's going to be a share of that type of money, that type of revenue for what those conferences will be doling out to their members. So, again, you're offsetting what is going to have to be earmarked every year, $20 million, at least a minimum of $20 million to be earmarked for revenue share. Again, college football is completely unrecognizable. So when people were up in arms about this, my response to that is, well, haven't you been paying attention lately? I mean, how is any of this surprising to you? Everything's for sale, including the student athletes. The people, and I'm not even trying to take this old school stance and this get off my lawn stance. This is just where the train's going. You're not stopping it. So this is just another example of college football trying to cash in on anything they possibly can so they can make student athletes happy, so they don't get sued. And so we continue to get closer and closer and closer to this being basically major league or minor league football.
Yeah. And so while as weird as it will be, like, I mean, like everything is sponsored now.
Yes.
It's like, and like, who am I to judge them doing another thing? The only oddity is that we are living in the midst of the oddity, right?
Yes,
like,
but we're watching it happen.
Yeah, but if you go back to like 1900, you'd be blown away for a variety of reasons about where life is at in 2024. Like, whoa,
we're not. Hey, at least we're not in flying cars yet.
Yeah,
not yet.
That's true.
We're supposed to be.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like a lot of stuff would blow a early college football fans' minds. Heck, we're looking at these fancy helmets, and I'm like, these are wild compared to even the helmet that I played in 20 years ago or whatever it was, So it's like, this is just kind of the next step. And, well, yeah, it's weird. Like, remember the freak out about Major League Baseball uniforms and sponsorships? And this isn't to say that everybody likes it, but I don't think about it when I watch games.
Either.
I'm not like, the QT logo on the Royals jerseys.
Yeah, when NBA was doing that first
exactly.
too. I never
Bumble.
Right. I never even noticed it. It's just it's something that you have to get used to. I will quote the former Nebraska athletic director, current member of the College World Series, Texas A&M athletic director Trev Alberts. So he said, you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yep.
You have to start getting comfortable being uncomfortable because that is what college athletics is right now. This is, and here's the other thing. And I know you guys have talked about this before too. For us here in Nebraska that we think we're we have these sacred traditions and we have this sellout streak.
Yep.
You know it and I know it. That stadium is going to be up for grabs when it comes to naming rights.
It should be.
It should, because when you have
Huge
to pay
influx.
players money now,
Yeah.
everything that you could possibly do to generate revenue, like alcohol at athletic facilities, all of that stuff should always be on the table.
It's wild. Like when you think about college football and how the new stadiums, when those pop up, which is a rarity, right? In college football, it's so many old stadiums. But when those pop up, it's like, oh, they're going to be sponsored. And yet you have, I don't know, how many memorial stadiums out there.
Right.
Clemson, Oklahoma, obviously Nebraska, etc.
Lawrence, Kansas.
You have all of these stadiums, or ones that are named after people. Bryant-Denny Stadium, for example, down in Tuscaloosa. And it's like, man, when will they just, swallow their pride and say, all right, if I don't know why Bojangles keeps coming to my mind, but if Bojangles wants to sponsor the pod, if they want to sponsor the stadium, if they want to sponsor that kid's pod, feel free. That kid would sign up for that.
Hey, Bojangles of all places.
Do I get Bojangles? Do I get free Bojangles? All right. When we return, we will continue the countdown to the second game of the night. Also, a weird story about the Colorado Buffaloes that I cannot wait to talk about on the air. And we look at three more former Big Ten West teams, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, and what would make for a good season for those three teams. We did 6 teams earlier in the Big Ten. We will do 3 more today, and then we will do the other 9 on Monday. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley hanging out here. We got Josh Dotson with his stick mic, Jacob Janisic back in our 1620 The Zone studios. More to come from the Omaha Baseball Village at Tennessee and Florida State right here on 1620 The Zone. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley, Josh Otson here at the Omaha Baseball Village, where we are powered by Access Bank, here for a reason, yours, and by Children's Nebraska. And you can come by the zone booth at the bullpen inside of the Omaha Baseball Village and register to win a summer prize pack of tickets to the Henry Dorley Zoo, KC Royals tickets, and ice cream from Ted and Wally's for a year. 13th and Mike Fahey. We are having a lovely time as we continue the countdown towards Tennessee and Florida State. If you missed it earlier, North Carolina 3, Virginia 2. Tar Heels tied this one up in the bottom of the 7th. They get the victory on a walk-off in the bottom of the 9th, and so they move on into the winner's bracket, and they await the winner of tonight's game. That will be Father's Day night on Sunday, and then UVA will face the loser in the early game, which I will be going to with my dad and mom and wife. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, going to be warm.
It's going to be very warm, and we found out that our tickets will be in the sun, so we will be oiling and lotioning, as
oiling and lotioning.
Oiling and lotioning.
I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably say that at one point, and then we'll walk up into the shade. So that'll be happening for us on Sunday. All right, if you missed it, a hilarious story came out. Somehow I missed this because this is a 2-day-old story.
Yeah.
I didn't see this at all.
I actually, it came across, I saw something about it last night. I read it when I was in between shows, I thought it was fantastic.
It really is. So the title is from Athlon Sports, Steve Corder. Deion Sanders made Lil Wayne concert mandatory for players to support Shadur's rap, sources say. First of all, great headline. I'm going to click that link in honor of Schaefer coming on the Connor Happer Show on Monday. Will you click this link? Yeah, I will click the F out of this link. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs. The Colorado Buffaloes had a huge weekend for the spring game at the end of April. It was a star-studded affair, which included a concert with 5-time Grammy Award winner Lil Wayne at CU Event Center. However, not all the details from Coach Prime's major event were spectacular. According to CU player sources, Sanders made the concert mandatory for all his players and reportedly threatened to dismiss anyone who skipped out. Second paragraph. This is a source. The Wayne concert was the final straw for a few players who hit the transfer portal. When Coach Prime told us we all had to be there to support Shadur as a rapper, they were not happy at all. To be honest, it was nothing but a huge distraction, and Daddy Ball was being played.
That's my favorite part about it. It's
Daddy Ball.
It's Daddy Ball. I really want to imagine him addressing the team with this.
Yeah, right.
This request. And saying, all right, you got Lil Wayne, you got Shadur. Might be a rap battle going on. You got to be there. And if you're not there, get to stepping.
Not great.
Get to stepping.
Not great. Text message. Yeah, come on. Text message that we got from Chris in Montana. He says, what a circus freak show.
You talking about Prime?
Yeah.
Okay.
I when I sent this story out earlier, I got a message from one of my friends, and just find it, and he said, we have to beat these a-holes. Yeah. That is a game, and look, we have many more months to talk about it. But well, not really many more months. We have 2.5 months to talk about it. Dude, they cannot lose that game.
No, they cannot.
They cannot lose that football game.
Nope. And this is what's kind of nerve-wracking about that game is we saw it last year too. Well, yeah, but this is where Colorado came out of the gate last year swinging pretty hard before they faded fast. So there is that initial adrenaline and of the season and try to prove everybody wrong, and maybe it actually does have its positive impact on that football team in Colorado. You're getting them the second night. Or second week. It's a night game. That place is going to be absolutely juiced. I think from that standpoint, and this was the beauty. Now, it wasn't like when they went to Fort Worth to open up the season that was an overly hostile environment. I don't think everybody was more intrigued to see what Colorado looked like under Deion Sanders, but I don't think that there was much hatred, if you will, in the stands in Fort Worth, Texas, when they open up against TCU. And then your second game, you're at Folsom Field and you're hosting Nebraska. This is going to be an environment, and it's stories like this, it's examples like this that continue to put more of the onus on Nebraska, not just for the local fans, but I think there's a lot of people in the country like, Nebraska, do not screw this one up.
Yeah.
We need to take care of this thing early in the season. There needs to be some humble pie. This needs to quit being a story. And as you know, remember last year, a lot of people And it wasn't just people that were following the game or people that were following college football, but national people were all about that story as not only one of the best stories in college football in those first 2 weeks, but as Joel Klatt said, and he wasn't wrong at the time, the best or probably biggest story in all of sports. We need to quash that very fast.
I mean, when's the last time that Nebraska had like a lot of like national rooting interest for them? They will have the country at their back, I think, in that game. At least a large portion of the country at their back in that game as they take on Colorado.
America's team?
Yeah, that's the latest. That's the latest weird story with the Colorado Buffaloes. At some point, there will be another weird story with the Colorado Buffaloes.
You're forcing your team a mandatory attendance at a concert, not only involving a hip-hop artist, but also your son, who will be rapping as well. And it's not a, hey, we need to show it. The way that the story, the way that I interpret it, and maybe you saw it differently, is not we need to do this as a team because, hey, this is a good team function. Everybody needs to be there because we're trying to do team building type stuff like you see a lot. That's not anything unheard of. But the ultimatum of if you don't, you're not going to be
on the team anymore.
And you got to support my son.
Who is the artist that came? Was it Chance the Rapper and Mike Riley's last year that came in? Imagine if he would have said that. Like the whole team, you had like I know he did. They did like a bonding activity. Obviously, it didn't work. They went 4-8 that year. But I know that he did a bonding activity. But I'd be hard pressed to imagine it being a mandatory thing that everyone had to show up for.
I don't think I think we've learned Mike Riley never made anything mandatory to begin with, including weightlifting. So I don't think he would have made a concert either. But there was. It's just this is the circus that is Colorado football, and this normally would be an account from somebody that I'd say is a disgruntled player that left the team and he's just trying to make more of it. But if there's one program and one coach that I believe this is probably true, it's Deion and it's Colorado.
100%. So that's what we got going on there. When we return, we will talk about the other Big Ten teams and what marks a good season for them. 1620 The Zone hydration sponsor is Zen Water. Time for a hydration break presented by Zen Water. Thirsty for a change. Also, Josh Hodson will help us out with the weather and the traffic. Hopefully he has better news about tomorrow's weather.
I bet there's more yellow and red in traffic than there was when we did this last time.
That coming up next here on 1620 The Zone. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley, Josh Otson here. Jacob Janicek back in our zone studios. We continue to roll on ahead of Florida State and Tennessee. Jeremy texted to the show, 402-951-1620. Definitely was Kendrick Lamar, not Chance the Rapper.
Oh, that's right. It was.
I thought it was Chance.
No, actually, no. We are right.
I'm going to look this
Chance
up.
the Rapper.
I'm going to look this up.
It is not Kendrick Lamar.
All right.
He had me thinking it for a second. I'm like, oh, wait, I got him. No. I'm 100%
Okay,
positive
wait,
it's
you know
Chance
what?
the Rapper.
It was both.
It was both.
So there is
I remember the Chance the Rapper one.
Yes, me too. So there is a story from the Journal Star. There he is with Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
Now, this is May of 2017.
Okay.
But a different story. This is Nebraska head coach Mike Riley meets Kendrick Lamar. Let's see if I can find. That was the one in August. Okay, so right before the season, the bonding activity that they did then was Kendrick Lamar. And then, the Nebraska football account tweeted "damn" in all caps because I believe that was right around the time that his album came out.
I just remember Mike Riley posing with Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
The Kendrick Lamar one now sounds familiar, but I was positive that he had a Chance the Rapper photo up.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
he's hip.
The youth of America, we continue to talk about what we're being asked around here.
Yep.
One kid just asked me if I made my own sunflower seed.
He was very intrigued.
Now, I don't know if I give off the vibe of making my own sunflower seed.
What does a sunflower seed maker look like? What's the profile?
Feels like a poll question.
Overall,
yeah. Well, I think it's a good poll question. What do you imagine when you say, hey, I make sunflower seeds? What does that person look like?
Old guy, overalls.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
think so.
Very old man.
Very rural.
Leathery skin.
Yeah.
Not me.
It's been a family-run business, and it gets passed down from generation to generation. That would be the sunflower seed maker.
Yeah, what was that, Josh?
They're artisanal.
Yeah. Peterson sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love sunflower seeds. I've never planned to ever make a single sunflower seed.
Yeah, I like eating them. Yeah, I'm fine with eating them, but I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so and there's the poll question. Does Josh look like a guy who makes his own sunflower seeds? Thank you, Odson, for sending that out. By the way, we didn't have time for one today, mainly because there were a lot of wild and wacky things going on behind the scenes. But tomorrow, on the Saturday edition of the show, live from the OBV with yours truly and Mike Schaefer, we will get the odd news.
We have gathered some stories. We are prepared to execute the odd news tomorrow.
Yes, and there is there's one story in particular that I'm very excited. A radio show in Pittsburgh.
You've read it. I haven't.
All right.
I'm in on the headline alone.
Yeah, so we'll have that later on tomorrow. All right, though. We have to focus on the here and now, Nick, because
do we?
Okay. I apologize.
Okay.
What would make a good season for every team in the Big Ten Conference? Earlier today, we went through the 4 new Pac-12 schools that are migrating their way east starting this upcoming fall. We also talked about Minnesota, Nebraska, and who was the other? Who am I forgetting? Oh, no, that was it. We did 6 teams. All right. Yeah. So now we're going to look at a few other Big Ten West schools, former Big Ten West schools, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois. Let us begin with the team that is furthest west, and I believe that would be the Iowa Hawkeyes of that group. What would mark a good season for the team that seemingly won the division every other year for the last handful of years?
Yeah.
Didn't ever win the conference, had a horrific offense, but finally has a new offensive coordinator.
Again, I think this is metrics more so than it is record, because if there's one thing that I expect with Iowa, even with this transition into a conference that's going to be divisionless, and an Iowa team that I think also benefited from that division, you know it and I know it, defense plays. No matter what conference you're going to, if you've got elite level defense, you're going to be in games. You're going to win more than you lose. And Iowa has that. Iowa also, I know it's Big Ten football, USC and Oregon get used to it, but special teams is also very big in the Big Ten. Welcome to the Big Ten. But also Iowa does that very, very well. So when I think about what Iowa, in a similar sense to what I think USC is after, and that is to prove a point that in this new look Big Ten, that you have the ability to be a team that can contend to get into that top half in certain years. And what that means from a number standpoint to me is 8 or 9 wins. I think that's a good season, but this gets more into you already know what to expect when it comes to their defense and most likely their special teams, even though you get rid of Torrey Taylor. It's their offense. This thing has been a joke far too long. You need to, and I don't even know if Kirk Ferentz wants to admit this, but you need to stiff arm that stigma of that offense is always going to keep you from getting to your ceiling. I think they've established their floor. And I even think in this new Big Ten, they will have established their floor to where even on a bad year, again, this is where the defense comes into play, that floor is probably 6, maybe 7 wins. That's their floor. Worst case scenario, which is not a bad place to live. So now I think Iowa's in a position where they got to start showing what their ceiling can be. And you cannot do that when you have an offense that's not even average, but an offense that's so bad. Even just barely below average, Josh, would be a step up. So this is what I'm looking for out of Iowa. A good season is 7 or 8 wins.
Okay.
There's context important on that, but offense just needs to be mediocre. A mediocre offense. You're not asking for a lot. So this is where you look at a new offensive coordinator. You look at what would be a healthy quarterback now in that situation with what they have in Cade McNamara. But more than anything, just having the numbers that are going to keep you right at the Big Ten average. Maybe you're putting up. What would an average number be in the Big Ten point-wise? What would you say?
20? I could give you the literal average from last year.
What was the literal average? Because I'm going to assume probably 26 to 27 points.
All right. So last year, the team that led the way in scoring offense was Penn State, which surprises me.
That does.
36.2 points per game.
Yeah.
Iowa was of course last at 15.4.
Yeah.
Team number 7, and again, it'll be 18, so it'll be a little different this year.
Right.
Team number 7 was Wisconsin at 23.5 points per game.
Okay. So let's put Iowa.
That would be a touchdown and a 2-point conversion above what they were scoring.
But that's I think that wins you a game or two.
Yeah,
more than
sure.
what you already have. So if you're averaging 24 points per contest, if your total yards, you are averaging at 375. That's not a lot in this day and age.
Yeah.
But 375, just average offense is a good season.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. Mediocre is a good thing for that offense. That's what it is when I think of Iowa and what would be a good season. Because I think they're going to hit 7 at the very least.
So, and I just realized we didn't mention their win total, 7.5.
7.5.
The shading is on the over, by the way,
Yep.
at 7.5. Their schedule this year features the usual battle of the Sahawk Trophy. That'll be on the 7th, so the same day that Nebraska takes on Colorado.
I think right now they're a 2.5-point favorite in that.
Notable conference games. They're at Minnesota. They're at Ohio State. Washington is one of the newbies that comes into town. They travel to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. They also have Wisconsin. Of course, they get to host Nebraska this year on Black Friday. So of the big dogs, they have Ohio State. And then of the medium dogs, they have, depending on how you feel about them, Wisconsin, Washington, Minnesota, Nebraska, and UCLA.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming. So I think 8 is in the picture for them, but I even think 7 can be a good season if their offense has taken a step forward this year.
All right, so it seems like we're on the same wavelength. So here's what I wrote down. Improvement on offense, can that equal top 5 in the league standings? Because I'm with you. I mean, I think certainly I would start the conversation with, like, can they hit the over? Can they win 8? Can they win 8 football games?
Mm-hmm.
And so if they can hit that number, one of the things, and Schaefer and I hit on this yesterday, that I can't wait to learn. What do records over the course of 5 to 10 years? What does 8-4 usually correlate with? What does 9-3 correlate with?
Yeah.
What is 10-2? What is 7-5? Because when I think of 8-4 in an 18-team league, like, that sounds kind of right on the edge of, being in the mix for the top 5, top 6, top 7 for sure.
I would
and
agree.
maybe top 5 just depends on the year. So it seems like we're in agreement with them. The next team, as we move from west to east, would be the Wisconsin Badgers. Their win total coming into this year in year 2 is 6.5 wins for them. 6.5, the over, by the way. Massive shading on the over. Here's what I wrote. Like, I think you want to start with, like, the obvious signs of improvement in year 2. So thus, like, I think that would show itself in winning more games than their win total says. And I think finishing in the upper half of the league. Like, this has been a program. How about this? They have not, I want to confirm it real fast, but believe the stat is that they have not finished a season ranked since 2019.
I think you're right.
It's been a while.
And they were, when Nebraska entered the Big Ten, they were the model of consistency.
Yes, they were.
So now that's, as I was talking about, Iowa establishing their floor. I think Wisconsin's floor is starting to teeter.
Yeah.
Where you're starting to say, oh, at the least it was kind of like Nebraska and Bo. At the least you're going to get 8 or 9 wins out of them. It might look different from year to year, but that's what you're going to get out of them. Now you're starting to see cracks into that floor where it's starting to teeter a little bit. I even getting to 7 wins last year, I mean, that was a bit of a struggle. That was a team that I think a lot of people looked at, even with the implementation. Absolutely was. Implementation of a new offense, but they were still, you still had the Braylon Allens. You still wanted to lean on the running game.
Yeah, so look at this. You go back to 2009. 10 wins, 11 wins, 8-6, but they won the conference. That's the year they destroyed Nebraska. 9-4 under Gary Anderson, then 11-3, 10-3, 11-3, 13-1. They dip back 8-5, but then they hop up and they go 10-4. That was 2019, and that's the last time that they finished the season ranked. They finished the season ranked 11th in the AP. So over the course of 11 seasons, they only dipped below double-digit wins 3 times.
Yeah.
And since then, COVID year, we can throw it out, but they went 4-3, 9-4, 7-6, 7-6. So that's a good point that you bring up. Has their ceiling gone down, or has their floor rather?
I think it's more the
has
floor.
Has their floor gone down? So with them, I think it's the obvious signs of improvement in year 2 under Luke Fickell, finding a way to hit that over, and again, not knowing exactly what 7-5 or 8-4 would mean.
Right.
Finish somewhere in the upper half of the league.
I think you're right. I'm this one I do have a number on because I'm thinking of the second year of that offense, and you got to think about Tyler Van Dyke, who seems to be handpicked for this very offense, just like they had with Mordecai as well. So quarterback play obviously going to be huge. Now, as every team is going to have that big question mark when it comes to quarterback. If they're not healthy, then where do you go from there? This is where I think Luke Fickell in his first year, not as a first-year Big Ten head coach, because we know he was at Ohio State too, so he understands it, but trying to be able to form that roster into where they can still utilize the strengths up front at the line of scrimmage, but also be able to start getting the football out to wide receivers, which we know that this is what this offense wants to do, and Luke Fickell can handle the defensive side of it. I don't worry about the defense as much as I do the offense, but I think it's second year, they should be a little bit further along, even with the new quarterback in Van Dyke. So I've got a number at 8 on this one. I think if they've got it, I think they hit the over. I think 7. I think you pound the over on this one. But to me, it's the tune of 8 wins. To me, you're going 7 wins, back-to-back years of Luke Fickell. You're wondering, okay, are they, again, like a lot of these teams, are they equipped to take a jump in what is a much more stacked Big Ten and a much more competitive Big Ten? Are they just going to be sort of a 7 to 9 win team year in and year out, or can they catapult from a 7-win season to an 8-win season and then go back to what you said? You put yourself into that top 5, that upper half of the Big Ten, or not upper half, but that top 5 of the Big Ten.
Before we get to Illinois and say goodbye to this segment, schedule features Bama at home in the non-con, at USC, at a sneaky Rutgers perhaps, Penn State's in town, at Iowa, Oregon comes to town, at Nebraska, Minnesota. I mean, of all of the teams we've done so far today, like I feel like this is the toughest schedule.
It is a really tough schedule. But again, this is if Wisconsin, remember the buzz about when Luke Fickell took over that job, like, oh my gosh, that is a great hire, came out of nowhere. You've got a loaded team. Now they want to dramatically transform that offense, but they still got a lot of physicality that should be able to help them stay afloat. You need to see this team, I think, take a major step forward. Now, 7 could have context, but I still have 8 that to me would lead to a good season.
Let's finish up with Illinois, and we'll do 9 other teams on Monday. Illinois, 5.5 is their win total. The under is where the shading is. Fascinating team, right? Year 3 under Bielema. Their schedule features Kansas in the non-conference, notable Big Ten teams, Nebraska on the road, Penn State on the road. Those are back-to-back. Michigan, it comes to town. At Oregon. They also play Michigan State. Later in the year, they play Minnesota. For me, I mean, like, dude, they showed a lot of promise a couple of years ago. They took a big step back, in my opinion, last year. So it's kind of, can they just get back to a bowl?
Right.
Like, I think that if they can get back to a bowl game, then maybe we're having a good conversation or a good feel. But I'll be honest, I don't really know if the vibes are going to be solid moving forward.
No, and I'll tell you right now, I'd be probably hitting the under on this one at 5, but I know this is becoming very boring because I think we're on the same page here. I can't look at this team and say, well, 7 wins would mark, especially, and you laid out the schedule there too. So I think that's an important part of this. But I can't bring myself to say, boy, 7 wins is the baseline to what determines whether Illinois had a good season or a bad season with that schedule and what they're coming off of. It's simply get to a bowl game, because then you start to get more belief. I think then you look at a 6-6 season with that schedule, and as people are trying to reestablish their belief, I'm not saying everybody's lost faith in Brett Bielema, but I think this is a good year for him to remind people that the guy can coach. He can especially coach in this conference, and he can do it kind of an old school way, like the physical way that still can win you some games and be at least enough to get you to the postseason. That, I think it's as simple as getting to 6 wins, but I think this is also a big year as far as, okay, what is Brett Bielema? What is this program in that type of conference?
Ross emails in, Rutgers, did you call them stinky? No, sneaky.
Yeah, they are sneaky.
Sneaky Rutgers.
I think that Nebraska game, Nebraska-Rutgers, is a 50-50 game.
Yeah?
I absolutely do.
Big game, man, especially where it falls on the schedule.
Yep,
all right, when we return, Odson will give us some updates on weather and traffic, and we will say goodbye and get you ready for Florida State and Tennessee. Josh Peterson, Nick Handley, Odson is here as well. Jacob Janicek back in our 1620 The Zone studios. 1 segment to go on day 1 of the Men's College World Series. We wrap it up next on 1620 The Zone.
At Rotella's Italian Bakery, they put unsurpassed product quality into everything they bake. Old world skill and experience are masterfully blended with modern efficiencies to create the delicious breads, rolls, hamburger and hot dog buns, and other specialty products that have delighted their customers since 1921. Combining customer satisfaction with uncompromising quality is their goal. Rotella's Italian Bakery, a century of pride in every slice. To see the full menu of products, visit rotellasbakery.com.
Make the right call. John Higgins Weather Car, the home of the roofery.
When it's time to replace or repair storm damage, make the right call. John Higgins Weather Guard, the local, trusted, and proven choice. No one has installed more DaVinci roofs, and there's a reason why John Higgins Weather Guard is the nation's leader. Community member, community supporter. Make the right call.
John Higgins Weather Guard, the home of the roofery. Make the right call.
An estimated 80% of Americans aren't getting their recommended daily amount of physical activity. It's time to move and keep moving, America. And when you need help, physical therapists and physical therapist assistants are by your side. Be your own champion. Choose more movement. Choose better health. Choose physical therapy. Find out more information and a physical therapist at choosept.com/NE. Brought to you by the American Physical Therapy Association of Nebraska.
The Pinnacle Bank Championship, presented by Woodhouse, is back. And you don't want to miss a second of Omaha's biggest golf tournament of the year. Join us August 5th through the 11th to catch the action as players battle their way towards the PGA Tour. Plus, enjoy events like RSM Youth Day, the Patriot Outpost, and the Live and Loud Concert Series. Secure your tickets today at thepinnaclebankchampionship.com/tickets.
Have you or a loved one been injured in an accident? If so, it's time to call the Nebraska Advocates. Our skilled Omaha-based attorneys will do everything they can to knock your accident case out of the park. The Advocates legal team will guide you through the claims process, build your case, and fight to get you full compensation. Get a free consultation today at nebraskaadvocates.com. You deserve an attorney who knows how to play hardball. You deserve an advocate.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Smith for Ted and Wally's Premium Ice Cream. Now that we got through the spring and we're in the summer, what's better for summer than ice cream? I always say, get yourself a bucket load. Now I know they don't sell it by the bucket at Ted and Wally's, but they do sell it by the pint. They do sell it by the half gallon. All you got to do is call ahead to get yours reserved today. And so many flavors. Go on social media, whether it's Facebook or on Twitter, and they have a list of the day's ice creams for both locations. That's in the old market, of course, and in Benson. Swing by there, get yourself some great ice cream this summer, and tell them Severe sent you.
Now back to the Men's College World Series special live from Omaha Baseball Village. Powered by Children's Nebraska and Access Bank on 1620 The Zone.
Josh Peterson and Nick Handley with you live from the Omaha Baseball Village. We're also joined by Josh Hodson. And this is the best part of the show. Josh Hodson's going to speak. Josh,
Yes.
What up?
Listen up, everybody. I got some things to say. Mainly about how you can enjoy your evening here at the Chuck.
Yeah, it's important.
Because the weather update is powered by the winning team at Liberty First Credit Union, supporting their communities and providing banking with purpose. We had a great game 1. We're going to have a great weather game 2.
Whoa.
So hopefully the competition on the field is as good as it was for game 1. The weather summary, the official weather summary from the NCAA reads as follows. High pressure at the surface and lower humidity levels will lead to plenty of sunshine today and generally comfortable conditions. Tonight, an upper-level disturbance will trigger thunderstorms in central Nebraska, which will march east overnight and bring rain to eastern Nebraska around 2 a.m. The morning showers could linger Saturday. Then a chance of showers and thunderstorms will exist for both games tomorrow. So, Josh, we might be here a while tomorrow.
This was not the news that I wanted you to give.
It's supposed to change from earlier.
Come on, Josh.
Well, now maybe we can will it away.
Yes.
Plenty of time.
How do we do that?
I don't know.
All right.
Google some home remedies overnight.
Wait, you guys remember where we live. There's always the Omadome.
How to keep thunderstorms away.
How to keep
the Omadome.
While you look up that, I'll tell you again that the weather update is powered by the winning team at Liberty First Credit Union, supporting their communities and providing banking with purpose. You guys want me to do the traffic right now?
Let's do the traffic, man. People are winding down.
That's
the game's about a half hour away.
Traffic presented by Park Omaha. Make a game plan for your parking. Reserve a downtown parking space in advance. That's right, in advance at parkomaha.com. If you're getting off of the 480 there, you're coming down. It's got you backed up all the way to about 20th Street right now. Let's see. 14th looks like it is pretty clogged right now, which is to be expected.
Happer said to take 14th, and now it's clogged. Interesting.
He gave his secret away.
Yeah.
19th looks pretty clogged as well. Seeing a lot of brake lights there. And, of course,
clogged.
As you head into the ballpark tonight, you will want to watch out for pedestrians and maybe out-of-town drivers who don't know where they're going
don't
or
like
what
that.
they're doing in general.
Or not knowing what they're doing in general.
That's right.
Great traffic update.
Yeah, it's presented by Park Omaha. Make a game plan for your parking. Reserve a downtown parking space in advance at parkomaha.com.
Josh, excellent work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like a bigger version of the state tournament when it comes to driving.
Ugh.
Yep.
People going the wrong way
Yep.
on one-ways.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not out-of-towners. It's out-of-staters.
That's right.
You know, though,
But we love you.
I would say this, though. I think out-of-staters, maybe they don't know, like, which way to turn, like which street to go down. But I feel like they read signs correctly, at least.
Hell, it's people in Omaha who don't go the right way.
Yeah, what's up with the people with the numbers on their license plates that
Yeah.
come to Omaha and they, drive like a bunch of idiots?
It's
None
it's
of them
a
are here
thing.
right now. This is an Omaha event, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an Omaha
That is
event.
true. That is
Western
true. We own this.
Nebraska ain't in the house.
They stay away.
Yeah.
They stay away. They go to camps and
Omaha's
stuff.
scary.
Unless they're playing in the Slump Buster tournament.
Omaha has roads that are one way.
They have the highway, the
Yeah.
interstate,
You have to
the
drive
freeway.
65 miles an hour, and it's frightening.
You have to pay for parking.
Sad.
It's crazy stuff.
How you feel about this game coming up, Nick? Tennessee, Florida State. We disagreed earlier. Not to brag. I was right.
You were.
Baseball Josh at it again.
Baseball Josh strikes. I think we're both in agreement because we both took Tennessee to win
We
the
did,
Natty.
but do we have them to come out of the losers bracket?
No. I think that's going to be that would be a bad step for Tennessee to make us a profit in them winning the national title. This is going to be the showcase game that we talk about talent tonight. You got a lot of draft prospects. You've got everyone from James Tibbs, right fielder for Florida State. Dude's a stud. Cameron Smith, third baseman, Florida State. He's a stud. Christian Moore is a stud at second base. The list goes on. You're going to have some great arms as well. This will be this is a perfect evening game, not only for these two programs and what they have meant to college baseball, but also the type of talent that's going to be on the field. Very reminiscent of what we saw a year ago with that collection of talent. It is going to be must-see baseball tonight.
I'm with you. I like Tennessee. I like them to get the victory. I do think that the crowd is going to lean more Florida State in this one.
Yeah.
I think that, we've talked a lot about Kentucky, first time coming to Omaha. They'll probably have supporters, certainly, because of that. But I feel like Florida State is the team that a lot of people want to get behind, given the number of times that they have made it to Omaha and the fact that they have not won a national championship. Tennessee, slight favorite on FanDuel, -170. The Noles are +132. Earlier, I asked you, hey, how you feel about this 10.5 over-under? And you were like, over.
Yeah.
Feel the same way
I was
tonight?
pounding the over. Yeah, I do. We're getting more runs tonight.
I'm with you. I think that we're going to get some more runs, certainly, tonight. And we'll have a great time. So
it's going to be great in the ballpark tonight, too. You're going to see a lot of blue foam fingers. Those things have been going like hotcakes, baby.
Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow. Mike Schaefer will be here with me and Odson. We have stuff.
We've brought back the foam finger, too.
A lot of things. We got the foam finger, which I know people love.
Yes.
Parents especially, they love it when their kids have foam fingers and they can hit each other in the head with it.
Who doesn't?
But we also have clear bags, which, dude, those things, massively important.
Yeah.
Massively important.
Got to have the clear bag to get in, too, and we've got you covered.
Yeah, we have that. We also have koozies, which are fun.
Yeah, baseball looking.
One of the things that I always forget about, Nick, when I go to a game, I forget to bring a koozie, and then I get a beer, and I feel like the last few times that I've gone to a baseball game before the one that I'm going to go to on Sunday, it's been a little chilly, and man, a cold beer on a 50-degree night, it feels good when you drink it, but in your hands, it's a little chilly.
Sure.
It's a little cold in my hands.
Well, then you get in the 90-degree days, too, and that thing is sweating.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, it was cold for the first maybe 2 minutes, and all of a sudden, gonzo.
You're drinking warm beer.
Yeah. So it serves two purposes, absolutely.
Yeah. Koozies, 2 thumbs up from us.
Yeah.
And
what? Oh, we got the little 1620, the baseball, too.
Yeah, we have. Yes, if you love tiny baseballs
that you can throw,
we have you covered with tiny baseballs.
Yeah, throw them on the field, too. Make sure they get the logo on camera when you cause a disruption so we get a little airtime. That's all we're asking.
By the way, shout out John Bishop. Had a great final call for the walk-off hit earlier for North Carolina. I imagine that him and Gary will deliver more great action tonight. It's John Bishop. It's Gary Sharp, Connor Happer down on the field, and in a minute from now, their pregame coverage will begin for what should be a very, very fun one, Tennessee and Florida State. We appreciate everyone for joining us all throughout the day. Thanks earlier to Jimmy Chavez. Thanks to Jacob Janisek, who is our producer for this show. Josh Otson getting stuff done here as well. Tomorrow, Mike Schaefer will be down. We're going to have Mitch Sherman stop by and a couple of fun surprise guests. A couple of fun surprise guests, and maybe I'll be wearing some fun new merch as well.
Hey, I got my new pickle hat on.
We love things. We love getting things. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy the baseball tonight. We'll be back tomorrow bright and early at 10 a.m. ahead of the Saturday doubleheader. For Jacob back in the studio, for Josh here on site, for Nick Handley, I'm Josh Peterson. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the baseball. It is John Bishop, Gary Sharp, and Connor Happer coming up next.